The world's greatest detective, Sherlock Holmes, and his faithful companion, Dr. Watson, were on a camping trip. They were in their sleeping bags looking up at the sky. Holmes said, "Watson, look up. What do you see?" Watson answered, "Well, I see thousands of stars." "And what does that mean to you?" Holmes inquired. "Well," said Watson, "I guess it means we'll have another nice day tomorrow." Watson paused for a moment and then asked, "What does it mean to you, Holmes?" "To me," said Holmes somberly, "it means someone has stolen our tent." No wonder Holmes was called the world's greatest detective. There are some things in life that ought to be obvious. In fact, they are obvious, but sometimes we forget. One of the things we forget is what's really important in life. For example, what's really important in life is not how we look. Oh, we think it is. You and I could be very rich if we could somehow get our hands on just a tiny fraction of the money people in our land spend each week trying to look good, as if appearance were the only thing in life that really matters. There was an amusing magazine article some time back that revealed a few of the tricks of the trade that makeup artists working for the Miss America pageant use to keep America's beauties beautiful. You may enjoy these tricks. You may even consider trying them. Number one, dirty hair. One of the pageant's hairstylists admits, "Dirty hair is more manageable. I can make a style fuller and stay better." Number two, face putty. Used to cover up lines, scars, and pockmarks, and to create porcelain complexions. One makeup artist says, "I've even gone so far as to use mortician's wax mixed up in the makeup." Number three, Vaseline. Smeared on the teeth so that contestants can smile easily, even if their mouths dry up from nervousness. And number four, Preparation H. Hey, I'm not making this up. The hemorrhoid ointment is smeared on the eyelids and under the eyes, and according to one makeup artist, it smells pretty bad, but it removes puffiness. These are the tricks used by Miss America contestants to make themselves look good. Someone else has collected some relevant statistics. According to this survey, there are 3 billion women who don't look like supermodels, and only a dozen or so who do. If Barbie were a real woman, she'd have to walk on all fours due to her proportions. The average American woman weighs 144 pounds and wears between a size 12 and 14. 1 out of every 4 college-age women has an eating disorder. The models in the magazines are airbrushed. They really aren't perfect. A psychological study in 2005 found that 3 minutes spent looking at models in a fashion magazine caused 70% of the women to feel depressed, guilty, and shameful. Models who 30 years ago weighed 8% less than the average woman today weigh 23% less. Well-known author and pastor Frederick Buechner writes sadly of his mother, who died a very lonely death as an old woman. Let me read his words. "She was by no means heartless, but I think hers was a heart that, who knows why, was rarely, if ever, touched in its deepest place. To let it be touched, there was a risk that, for reasons known only to her, she was apparently not prepared to take. Because there was a sense of hollowness within, her last years, when storms can often be at their worst, were marked with sadness. Being beautiful was her business, her art, her delight, and it took her a long way and earned her many dividends. But when, as she saw it, she lost her beauty, she was like a millionaire who runs out of money. She took her name out of the phone book and got an unlisted number. With her looks gone, she felt she had nothing left to offer the world, to propitiate the world. So what she did was simply to check out of the world. That old last rose of summer, the way that Greta Garbo and Marlene Dietrich checked out of it, pulling themselves up somewhere and never venturing forth except in disguise. My mother holed herself up in her apartment, and then in just one room of that apartment, and then just one chair in that room, and finally in the bed where one morning a few summers ago, perhaps in her sleep, she died at last. What a sad chronicle of a woman who thought how she looked was the one thing that matters. But it's not how we look that really matters, and it's not how smart we are or how much we know. Certainly a good mind, like a nice appearance, can be helpful. Knowledge plays a bigger role in our lives than ever before. More new information has been produced in the last 30 years than in the previous 5,000. About 1,000 books are published internationally every day, and the total of all printed knowledge doubles every 8 years. Still, as Daniel Goleman so ably noted in his book, Emotional Intelligence, IQ offers little to explain the different destinies of people. When 95 Harvard students from the classes of the 1940s were followed into middle age, the men with the highest test scores in college were not particularly successful compared to their lower scoring peers in terms of salary, productivity, or status in their field. Nor did they have the greatest life satisfaction, nor the most happiness with friendships, family, and romantic relationships. A similar follow-up on middle age was done with 450 boys, mostly sons of immigrants, 2/3 of which were from families on welfare, who grew up in Somerville, Massachusetts, at the time which was a blighted slum a few blocks from Harvard. A third had IQs below 90, but again, IQ had little relationship to how well they had done at work or in the rest of their lives. For instance, 7% of men with IQs under 80 were unemployed for 10 or more years, but so were 7% of men with IQs over 100. To be sure, there was a general link, as there always is, between IQ and socioeconomic levels at age 47. But childhood abilities, such as being able to handle frustrations, control emotions, and get on with other people, made the greater difference. Consider also data from an ongoing study of 81 valedictorians and salutatorians from the 1981 graduating class in Illinois high schools. All, of course, had the highest grade point averages in their schools. But while they continued to achieve well in college, getting excellent grades, by their late 20s, they had climbed to only average levels of success. 10 years after graduating from high school, only 1 in 4 were at the highest level of young people of comparable age in their chosen profession, and many were doing much less well. But let's not be naive. It is more advantageous to be attractive than it is to be homely, and it's better to be smart than stupid. But there are many things more important than either of these, and there is one thing that is far more important than all the others. The Lord anointed Samuel to find a new king for Israel after God had rejected Saul. God sent Samuel to a man named Jesse, the Bethlehemite. God had selected one of Jesse's sons to be the new king. God told Samuel to invite Jesse and his sons to a ritual sacrifice. As Samuel surveyed Jesse's sons, his eyes fell on Eliab. Eliab was a tall, handsome young man. He had the appearance of a leader. Samuel thought to himself, "Surely the Lord's anointed stands here before the Lord." But the Lord said to Samuel, "Do not consider his appearance or his height, for I have rejected him. The Lord does not look at the things people look at. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart." Here's the one thing that really matters. What's in our hearts? There's an old story from the days before eHarmony and Christian Mingle of a man and a woman who met and fell in love by mail. After months of correspondence, the two of them agree to a rendezvous. He will travel to her city, and they will meet for the first time at the train station. Because they've never exchanged photographs, each of them has no idea what the other looks like. So they agree on a simple visual code. She'll wear a green scarf, a green hat, and a green carnation. As the man gets off the train, he begins looking for the one he loves. Eagerly scanning the crowd, his eye lights upon a woman with a green hat, green scarf, and a green carnation. In that instant of recognition, the man's heart sinks, for this is truly one of the most homely, unattractive women he has ever laid eyes on. He very nearly walks off without speaking a word, but he has come this far and she's expecting him. So he introduces himself. "Am I glad to see you," the woman responds. "Can you tell me what this whole thing is about? That woman over there gave me $20 to wear these things." And there on a bench sits the most beautiful woman the man has ever seen. Later she explains that all of her life, men have fallen over themselves to get to her, only to become tongue-tied in her presence, all because of her looks. "I want someone to love me, not for my outward appearance," she confesses, "but because he thinks I'm beautiful inside." The one thing that really matters is this: what's on the inside? What's in our hearts? And deep within us, we know it's true. For example, to those of you who are married, personal appearance may have played an important role in choosing your spouse. So may have intelligence. But what is it you appreciate most of your spouse today? Most of us would agree it's their heart. "I love the way he treats me. I know she will always be there for me. I know I can trust him. She's my best friend." A loving and devoted heart in the long run of life is far more important to happiness than a pretty face and a superior brain. A drunk husband snuck up the stairs quietly. He looked in the bathroom mirror and bandaged the bumps and bruises he received in a fight earlier that night. Then he proceeded to climb into bed, smiling at the thought that he had pulled one over on his wife. When morning came, he opened his eyes, and there stood his wife. "You were drunk last night, weren't you?" she said. "No, honey," he answered sleepily. "Well, if you weren't," she said with disgust, "then who put all the Band-Aids on the bathroom mirror?" We joke about it, but in a number of homes, it is no joking matter. There are many women who would trade their handsome husband for one who is faithful, one who is sober, one who is a good father to the children, one who will sit with her in church. And it's a two-way street. Many men would trade their beautiful wife for one who is kind, one who is loving, one who treats them with respect. Newspaper columnist and minister George Crane tells of a wife who came into his office full of hatred toward her husband. "I do not only want to get rid of him, I want to get even. Before I divorce him, I want to hurt him as much as he has hurt me." Dr. Crane suggested an ingenious plan. Go home and act as if you really love your husband. Tell him how much he means to you. Praise him for every decent trait. Go out of your way to be as kind, considerate, and generous as possible. Spare no efforts to please him, to enjoy him. Make him believe you love him. After you've convinced him of your undying love and that you cannot live without him, then drop the bomb. Tell him that you're getting a divorce. That will really hurt him. With revenge in her eyes, she smiled and exclaimed, "Beautiful, beautiful. Will he ever be surprised?" And she did it with enthusiasm, acting as if. For 2 months she showed love, kindness, listening, giving, reinforcing, sharing. When she didn't return, Crane called. Are you ready now to go through with the divorce? Divorce, she exclaimed. Never. I discovered I really do love him. Her actions had changed her feelings. Motion resulted in emotion. The ability to love is established not so much by focusing on the other's external appearance and shortcomings, but by changing your own actions and attitude from the inside out. God doesn't look at the outward appearance. God looks upon the heart. How's your heart this morning? Let us pray. Lord, shine the light of your truth in our hearts. Search our hearts and purify them. Examine our minds and renew them by your Spirit. Help us not to focus on outward appearances, but to see what is in the hearts of others. Change our hearts for you. Amen.